Hello, Tom Maguire. I just want to do a review of this fantastic book, Kindred, Neanderthal Life, Love, Death and Art by Wragg Sykes. What a fantastic book. It's one of my favourites so far this year. I highly recommend it. I listened to the audio version, but I took delivery of this paperback today. Fantastic paperback. Lovely illustrations in there, lovely photos as well. Some of the digs, archaeological digs, some of the evidence from over the years. Couldn't recommend it enough. Like I say, it's one of my favourites this year, and I'm only on about, well, I've read about 52 so far this year, which is slow compared to previous years, but you know, fine. I'm in the middle of building a house at the minute, so I'm a bit busy. But just to give you a bit of a quick idea of the sort of books, when I say it's one of my favourites this year, what I'm comparing it to, I'm not reading a load of rubbish, although you might disagree with that. I've read The Peregrine by J.A. Baker, fantastic book. I urge you to check that one out. A Swim in a Pond in the Rain by George Saunders. That's a fairly new one. I think that might be new this year or new last year, potentially. Really good book. I've done a review on that. When All Is Said, Anne Griffin, that's new as well. I think that's her debut novel. That's really, really good. I've reviewed that one. Reality Is Not What It Seems, Carlo Rovelli. I'm yet to review that one, but I will do soon. Fantastic book. I think that's 3 or 4 years old now. And also The Master and His Emissary by Ian McGilchrist. That's a brilliant book. Really long, really deep, but really, really interesting. I've also read Ancestors by Alice Roberts, which I reviewed recently. And for me, this book, Kindred, is kind of everything that I was hoping Alice Roberts' book was going to be. I found hers, although it's really good, really interesting, it just left me a little bit cold. This one feels better written. It created much nicer imagery in my mind. The prose, the description and stuff was lovely. The fictional parts that she adds in at the beginning of each chapter is absolutely lovely. I love that. That really makes a difference for me when I'm reading a book or listening to a book. So I'm not slagging Alice Roberts' book off. It's, you know, go listen to it, go read it. It's really interesting. But this for me is better again. It's fantastic. I've also read Sapiens as well, and I think this compares to that. This is brilliant. So she does have a sort of sketch and short piece of fiction at the start of each chapter, which really kind of really nicely done. Absolutely love it. It's great writing. She's kind of painting the picture of, you know, she's kind of getting rid of this Victorian idea that Neanderthals were sort of savages and brutish and, you know, subhuman, and actually kind of helping us to realise that potentially they were a lot more like us than we might be prepared to accept, actually, and could have been quite sophisticated users of tools and family oriented and caring, and potentially wanted to transcend themselves and thought about the afterlife potentially and things like that. Really, really interesting. So fascinating. There were some kind of bloody scenes that she kind of came up with, but they were just so well written. The imagery, like I say, was really good. For me, I think it's a book to enjoy, even if you're not necessarily really into the subject. I'm not by any means an expert in Neanderthals or ancient history particularly, but I do just find it fascinating. Anything that, as soon as you start saying 100,000, 200,000 years ago, or what have you, and you're talking about similarities to us now, that for me is just mind-boggling. I've only got to sit for a couple of minutes to think about how vast that is. In terms of, you know, how old the Earth is, it's tiny, but in terms of our existence, it's huge. I just find that fascinating, quite magical. And apparently many of us, at least those of us without sub-Saharan heritage, carry between 1.8 and 2.6% Neanderthal DNA. So that's really quite interesting as well. So although they went extinct, I think, and I could be wrong now, I think about 30,000 years ago, something like that, 30 or 40,000 years ago, they still sort of live on, don't they, within us? So that's fascinating. And I'm just going to read you quickly my favourite bit of praise for the book that they've, you know, you've got the Times, you've got London Review of Books, you know, Professor Brian Cox, all these people, Wall Street Journal. But this little bit from Greg Jenner, historian, author, has said that written with such pleasing, elegant prose, Kindred is a captivating ode to the subtle complexities of paleoanthropology. The thrill of discovery, the frustrating gaps in the evidence, the tantalising question marks hovering above our favourite ideas. Dr. Rebecca Wragg Sykes balances admirable scientific caution with her joyous enthusiasm, and the result is a generous, enthralling history of how we first came to know our ancient cousins and how we're still getting to know them today. It's brilliant. And just to give you a bit of an idea of who Rebecca Wragg Sykes is, well, because I wasn't aware of her before I listened to this book. She's an archaeologist and author. So following her postdoctoral research at University de Bordeaux, she now holds an honorary fellowship at University of Liverpool. Alongside her academic expertise, she's an exceptional science communicator, writing for the New York Times, The Times, The Guardian, and apparently regularly appears on BBC Radio and podcasts. She's also a science consultant and co-directs Trailblazers, highlighting women in archaeology and the earth sciences. So there you go. And just to go through the blurb on the back here quickly for you, since their discovery more than 160 years ago, Neanderthals have metamorphosed from the losers of the human family tree to A-list homonyms. Wragg Sykes uses her experience at the cutting edge of Paleolithic research to share our new understanding of Neanderthals, shoving aside cliches of rag-clad brutes in an icy wasteland. In Kindred, they're revealed to have been curious, clever connoisseurs of their world, technologically inventive and ecologically adaptable. Above all, they were successful survivors more than 300,000 years. It's absolutely fantastic. During times of massive climatic upheaval, much of what defines us was also in Neanderthals, and their DNA is still within our genetic makeup. Planning, cooperation, altruism, craftsmanship, aesthetic sense, imagination, perhaps even a desire for transcendence beyond mortality. It is only by understanding Neanderthals that we can truly understand ourselves. And yeah, it's just one of my favourite books in a while. Really, really good. Like I say, I listened to the audio version narrated by Wragg Sykes, fantastic. And the paperback I'm going to give a read as well, and it's lovely. The illustrations and the photos in there are brilliant. So yeah, couldn't recommend it enough. Please keep liking and subscribing, and I'll be back again soon to do another review. Cheers, take care.